Hey student, how are you? Welcome to our session on sinusoidal functions, midline, amplitude, and period. We've got our function y equals a times sine of bx plus d. Let's start with the midline. Y equals d. The midline is halfway between the maximum height and the minimum height. Amplitude. The amplitude is the absolute value of A. It is positive since it is the distance from the midline to the maximum height or from the midline to the minimum height. And the period. The period is one full cycle of our graph, and the period is 2 pi divided by the absolute value of B. Let's do some practice problems. Identify the midline, amplitude, and period. Let's start by identifying A, B, and D. A in number 1, A is 8, B is 4, and D is 5. Let's identify the midline. The midline is y equals D. D is 5. Amplitude. The amplitude is the absolute value of A. A is 8. Absolute value of 8 is 8. And the period is equal to 2 pi divided by the absolute value of B, and B is 4. And we'll reduce, and we get pi over 2. Number 2. Let's identify A, B, and D. A is -7, B is -3, and D is -2. Let's find the midline. Y equals D. D is -2. Amplitude is equal to the absolute value of A. A is -7, so the amplitude is positive 7. Amplitude is a distance, distance is positive. And the period is equal to 2 pi. 2 pi divided by the absolute value of B. B is -3. And the absolute value of -3 is positive 3. So we get 2 pi over 3. Let's take a look at a graph. Identify the midline, amplitude, and period from the graph. First, I notice that we have a maximum height at -1, maximum height at -1, and we have a minimum at -5, minimum height at -5. Let's find the midline. The midline is halfway between the maximum height and the minimum height. So if we add them together and divide by 2, we'll get halfway between the max height and the min height, and we get -3. Our midline is y equals -3. And let me graph that so you can see that here on the graph. There is our midline. Then we'll find the amplitude. And the amplitude is the distance from the midline to the maximum height or from the midline to the minimum height. And we see that the distance is 2. Or you can do it from the midline to the minimum height, and you will get the same thing. Absolute value of -2 is 2. So our amplitude is 2. And then the period, one full cycle of our graph. If we start here at the midline, go up to a maximum, down to a minimum, back to the midline, it looks like one full cycle occurs every 2 pi. So our period is 2 pi. Let's do one more problem. And I'm going to do a quick sketch using the information they gave us here. Here's our midline. Now I'm going to draw one full cycle of a sine graph. And they told us that the maximum occurs at 1, 7, and the minimum occurs at 4, 3. So here is our midline, halfway between the maximum height and the minimum height. So halfway between 7 and 3, we can add 7 plus 3 and divide by 2 to find halfway between the max and min height, and we get 5. So our midline is y equals 5. And then the amplitude will be the distance from the midline to the maximum, or the midline to the minimum. So our amplitude, distance from 5 to 7, or distance from 5 to 3. And we see our amplitude is 2. And then the period, one full cycle of our graph. Well, we see that half of our cycle occurs from the maximum to the minimum. Half of one cycle is from x equals 1 to x equals 4. The distance from 1 to 4 is 3. So this is half a cycle. So we'll multiply 3 times 2, and we get a period of 6, one full cycle. And that concludes sinusoidal functions, midline, amplitude, and period. Thanks so much for joining our session, and I'll see you next time.